My name is Alana Triai, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our Feel Better session today on powering up your plate. When I'm not hosting Feel Better sessions, I am proud to volunteer with Look Good Feel Better as a National Volunteer Workshop Facilitator, and I'm also a field executive for Clinique. You are just going to eat up today's topic. There is a lot of conflicting information out there about the foods that we eat and how they might impact our long-term health. Everything from sugar to meat. Sometimes there's even questions about fresh fruits and vegetables. To help us sort through it all, we are so excited to welcome Kate Ueland from Cook for Your Life. Cook for Your Life is an organization that teaches healthy cooking to people touched by cancer. I have some questions for Kate, but please feel free to send us your questions in the chat, and we'll get to as many of them as we can at the end of the session. But before we begin this very important topic, I want to quickly introduce you to the Look Good Feel Better program. Look Good Feel Better provides free workshops to people with cancer to help them manage the appearance-related side effects of cancer treatment. We also strive to help to improve morale and help patients face cancer with confidence. Professional beauty volunteers like myself, we provide lessons on skincare, makeup, nail care, wigs, head coverings, turbans, accessories, and also styling. It is an honor to be a part of a program that really helps to support, give advice, and uplift the spirits of women going through the challenging circumstances of cancer treatment. Each and every smile that we can create is beyond rewarding for all the volunteers. And over the past 30 years, we have actually created over 2 million of these smiles across 27 countries all around the world. Look Good Feel Better is 100% free and available to anyone undergoing cancer treatment. If you would like more information, or if you'd like to share the programs that Look Good Feel Better offers to someone that you know and love, please visit our website at www.lookgoodfeelbetter.org. One more quick note before I introduce our very special guest. We are thrilled that as part of today's Feel Better session, we will be able to offer 2 exclusive Look Good Feel Better beauty and skincare bags featuring an amazing assortment of premium products. Each time that you donate $20 or more to Look Good Feel Better during or after this session, your name will be entered into a drawing. Just click on the button below or text Feel Good to 44321. That's Feel Good to 44321. And don't forget to give us your email address because that's how we'll notify all of the winners. So let's get started. Kate Ueland is a registered dietitian and a board-certified specialist in oncology nutrition who works with cancer patients throughout all stages of the cancer journey, from cancer prevention during treatment and supporting patients in survivorship at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center in Seattle, Washington. Kate is also an assistant professor in the Department of Nutrition and Exercise Science at Bastyr University in Kenmore, Washington. As the nutrition advisor and the editor for Cook for Your Life, Kate ensures all the culinary nutritional content on the site is credible and also follows science-based guidelines. Her research interests are in cancer prevention and survivorship, and she has a focus on breast cancer and also the field of sports nutrition. Today, we are all so lucky to get to spend some time with Kate. Cook for Your Life and Look Good Feel Better are very similar in how we support patients. We both strive to help patients regain some personal control during treatment. Food and nutrition, it is such an important component of that. So it is truly my pleasure to welcome Kate Ueland to today's Feel Better session. Kate, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Elena. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to be here.
We are so excited to get to spend this time with you. And Kate, I mentioned a little bit about Cook for Your Life, but could you tell us a little bit more about the organization and the programs that you offer?
Yeah. So Cook for Your Life was founded in 2007 by a 3-time cancer survivor named Anne Ogden Gaffney. And she was based in New York City, and she started holding in-person cooking classes and eventually crossed paths with Dr. Heather Greenlee, who is an epidemiologist and integrative medicine researcher who moved from Columbia to join the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in 2009. And then in 2018, or 2019, excuse me, Cook for Your Life was acquired by Fred Hutch. And that's when I joined, was about 2019. And we began to transition everything from like the work that Anne was doing, which was really culinary based. And so there's lots of recipes, there's lots of there's blogs, there's tips and tricks for getting through chemo, and then also in survivorship. And what we've done since the website's been acquired by Fred Hutch is we've started to really build out our Spanish side of the website. So our website is fully translated in Spanish by our amazing social media content expert, who is also a native Spanish speaker. And so she's done the hard work to get all of our content also translated in Spanish. And we're very excited to reach just a broader audience from that piece. And because we're under the Fred Hutch umbrella now, we are utilizing the website in a lot of research studies to really understand and support those breast cancer survivors, really is the kind of the main audience right now, on how to best support them to live in healthy survivorship. And another aspect that is really near and dear to my heart that we work really hard at the website to ensure is that all of our content is based in science and follows the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics guidelines. And we do a lot to dispel myths and provide important, credible information. So, lots of people themselves that get diagnosed with cancer, or the caregivers of people diagnosed with cancer, often look to alternative methods when faced with a cancer diagnosis. And so we really strive to be a resource for people where they can rely on the information that we're giving them to be credible.
Kate, that's amazing. And you lead me to my next question. What to eat and why even to eat can be confusing topics to so many people. I know you get questions all the time about what foods we should eat to stay healthy, and also what kinds of foods that we should avoid, perhaps, to prevent disease like cancer. What are the top 3 foods that people ask you about?
Yeah, that's a great question, Elena. So the top 3 or 4 things are really sugar, red meat, dairy, and soy. And I'd love to kind of give a shout out to each one of those. So in terms of sugar, there's a lot of, there's this understanding that sugar feeds cancer. And while that's true in some regards, it's not the whole story. And when we talk about nutrition myths out there, when we try to parcel fact from fiction, oftentimes what gets complicated is that there's usually some truth kind of wrapped in a myth. And so when it comes to things like sugar feeds cancer, it's really more about like glucose, diabetes, chronic inflammation. And while, tumors and the rest of our cells use sugar as our main source of energy, removing all the sugar from your diet, like following a ketogenic diet, for example, is not going to slow the rate or the growth of a tumor, nor will it prevent a tumor from occurring. And so what we really encourage people to do is really kind of, the basis of a cancer protective diet is to just eat a whole food, plant focused diet. And I emphasize focus because I always stay away from plant-based, because a lot of people, when they hear plant-based, it means they think that they need to be vegan, and they don't. There's no actual evidence that supports a vegan diet over just a mostly plant-based diet. And, kind of to simplify that, there's absolutely room for animal products in your diet. And it is also a part of a cancer protective diet, which kind of leads me right into the red meat conversation, where red meat is a little different. Red meat and also processed meat, I want to kind of add in there as well. That has been studied, and it's well understood that an abundance of red meat and processed meats in our diet over time can lead to increased risk for things like colon cancer in particular. And so the American Institute for Cancer Research, the AICR, has put recommendations out for red meat. And so the recommendations are 12 to 18 ounces of cooked weight. So like 3 ounces, about the size of a deck of cards. So you get 4 to 6 of those a week in terms of including red meat. And, red meat is anything that has a hoof, and it's a mammal. And so oftentimes people will be like, well, pork isn't included in that. And I say that is incredible marketing, because pork is the other white meat, which really means it's red meat. And so pork is definitely, I know it's like heartbreaking for people, but it's, so all of those things, all mammals are included in that. With processed meat, the evidence is a little more clear that the association between colorectal cancer and processed meat intake is a little bit higher. And so we know that processed meat is a carcinogen. And while we know that, having some amount of it, again, is not going to dramatically increase your risk. But the recommendation around processed meat is we really try to avoid it as much as possible and make it like a rare special occasion.
And so for our audience, when you say processed meat, is that lunch meats and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So lunch meat, I know, which is hard for people. Salami, anything anything that's cured is going to be considered processed meat. And bacon's always a hard one. But it doesn't mean you can't have any bacon. It's just trying to minimize the frequency with which we have bacon. And then kind of on the animal train, dairy is another really hot button topic, especially for people. That dairy has been really closely associated with increased risk for breast cancer, and that is not founded in the science. And dairy is definitely a part of a cancer protective diet in moderation. Like that's kind of the theme of the day is, and we talked, like, there's really no bad food except for trans fats. And that gets harder and harder to get into your diet anyways these days. And so really, dairy is not going to increase your risk for breast cancer. If you're looking to stay, weight stable, some people like to choose a low-fat dairy over a full-fat dairy, but dairy itself is not going to increase the risk of breast cancer in particular. And that's where dairy kind of more comes up when people talk and look for breast cancer. And then while we're on the topic of breast cancer, soy is also an incredibly hot topic still, which is kind of surprising to me, because we've known for at least 20 years that consuming soy does not increase a person's risk for breast cancer. And
wow.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of
so many times, Kate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's whole food sources of soy. So when we hear that, we think tofu, tempeh, edamame, soy milk's included in that. Tamari, soy sauce, those can all be part of a healthy cancer protective diet. And what I like to tell people when I talk to them is that if you like soy, it's amazing, consume it. If you don't, it's okay, right? There's a lot of other foods that you can choose out there, but you don't have to be afraid of soy. And it actually, in epidemiological studies, has shown to be more protective and decreasing the risk of breast cancer occurrence in female-bodied people.
Kate, you are giving us so much valuable wisdom here. And I think another question that people ask a lot about are superfoods. It seems like every other day we'll see on TV, on the news, maybe on social media, another fruit or vegetable being called a superfood. Can you help us separate some of the fact from fiction when it comes to superfoods?
Yeah, I will say that when it comes to superfoods, if you're eating plants, you're eating a superfood. And really, when people talk about superfoods, they're talking about these phytonutrients. And I'll just take a hot minute to just explain that. So phytos, plant-based nutrients. And these nutrients are also called secondary compounds, which sometimes makes it easier to kind of wrap your head around. And it's they're called secondary compounds because they're not a vitamin or a mineral. They really are produced from plants, by plants, to provide protection, right? So whether you're talking environmental protection or predatory protection. And so when you think of these secondary compounds, we think of phenols and catechins and all sorts of things. That's the top two of my list. And so what most plants have some amount of these phytonutrients within them. And we have honed in on several that we've studied in like cell studies or animal studies that we've seen that have been demonstrated in those models to either increase, or most of the time it's decreasing tumor size, increasing this process called apoptosis, which is this programmed cell death. I just kind of love that word. And that is important in our bodies. Our bodies naturally do that because we're naturally producing abnormal cells all the time. And so normally our body has these checks in play to flag those and be like, that's not a normal cell. And then they flag it and then they kill it and then we get rid of it. And that's the end of that. And what these phytonutrients do is they help support those systems. So let's say our body doesn't catch that, but this compound may catch it and help flag and induce this apoptosis. And a lot of these superfoods that are touted, blueberries and grapes and lignans and flax seeds and many, many more, the indole-3 carbamol and cruciferous vegetables, they really support our inflammation system, our inflammatory system, immune system. And that is really the place where food intersects in a cancer protective realm. Food, like whole foods, eating the whole food, you get these phytonutrients, which help support the immune system, which keeps inflammation low in our bodies. And inflammation itself, like long-term, low-grade chronic inflammation, is a driver for cancer progression. So it's a hallmark of cancer. And that's really how food can help support reducing a person's risk for developing cancer in general.
Kate, that helps so much to know that it's really, about getting just more of those fruits and vegetables in daily and that we can benefit from so many out there. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about you, but I will admit that I do love to have some iced coffee now and again. What is the story with coffee? Is there anything that we should be aware of when it comes to having coffee in our diet?
Yeah, so coffee is another one that kind of comes up here and there. And I will say that coffee, like moderate amounts of coffee, even daily, do not increase a person's risk for developing cancers. Again, right? Coffee is a plant, it's a bean, and it has all these phytonutrients that are contained within them. And so those are also helping to support helping to support cellular damage. There's anti-inflammatory properties within coffee beans. And the role of coffee and its lowering of risk of cancer is not completely understood. We're working on it. There's active research going on in this realm. But there's also, but you don't have to be afraid of coffee. Again, you don't have to stop drinking coffee because you've heard that coffee increases your risk for cancer. One thing I will say on a note about that is really, really hot beverages have been linked to increased risk for things like esophageal cancer, but that's the temperature. It's not the coffee or the tea. It's the temperature. So like long-term consumption of really, really hot beverages, we're talking like scorching hot, probably things that would get a lawsuit back in the 90s, right? That now have like disclaimers like this is a really hot beverage. Those have been linked to, but again, that's the temperature. It's not the coffee.
Kate, you are so great at dispelling these myths. And there's another topic that gets discussed so much on social media amongst my friends and families as well. There's so many different types of diets and eating patterns that we see being advocated for. Some of the ones that are coming to mind for me are things like alkaline diets and intermittent fasting. Are these types of diets or eating plans beneficial to keeping us healthy or preventing disease in any way?
Yeah, that's a great question. Those are very popular diets. One thing I can say, so we'll start with the alkaline diet. You cannot change the pH of your body. That is just like a physiological fact. You can change the pH of your urine, right? So I should qualify that. So you can change the pH of your blood. You can change the pH of your urine. And so when people eat more fruits and vegetables, they have more minerals and more compounds, more alkaline compounds that they're excreting because they're just consuming more of those compounds. So our body's like filtering them out in our urine. So when people do the pH strips, right? You pee on a pH strip and it says your urine's alkaline. That's not an indicator of what's going on inside your body. That is just your urine. And so when it comes to an alkaline diet, one thing that we haven't like really kind of touched on is the importance of things like legumes and whole grains in addition to fruits and vegetables to kind of achieve that high fiber cancer protective diet that we're kind of talking about here today. And, the alkaline diet is limiting in those foods. And so while there's really great things about the alkaline diet, it does have limitations. And, there's a lot of other restrictions with the alkaline diet as well. And one of the things, this is kind of where the myth comes in. Well, not myth, but a misunderstanding of our physiology is that, people will hear that tumors grow in an acidic environment and that, meats are highly acidic. And so they produce, they change our pH and produce this acidic environment, which is not true because we buffer all of our food, in our small intestine so that we can the enzymes can work and we can absorb it. And so what's happening is that the tumor itself, as it's growing, the byproduct and the waste products of this tumor growing is what's actually creating an acidic environment around the tumor cell. And so some cell studies have done these experiments where they flood kind of the tumor cells with bicarbonate, right, to alkalize it. And they've shown that the tumor stops growing or shrinks. But we can't do that. Some people do take bicarbonate, but it's not advisable. But because we buffer in all of our food in our small intestine before we absorb it into our bodies, we can't change the pH of our blood. And therefore, we can't change the pH of our internal body environment because you would end up in the hospital on like a ventilator if we change the pH of our blood, where our body tightly regulates the pH of our blood. Because of that reason, if it gets too basic, Well, we have really big problems. If it gets too acidic, we have really big problems, like emergency room problems. So there's like benefits to the alkaline diet, i.e. it's high in fruits and vegetables, but it's also limiting in things like whole grains and legumes. The intermittent fasting piece is really what I tell people. A lot of the research around intermittent fasting is around reducing side effects from chemo treatment. And so that's where a lot of the work is being done right now in the cancer realm. One thing that I always tell people is that you should take a break of eating. So, and align that with your circadian rhythm, right? Your sleep-wake cycles. And so fast when you're sleeping, eat when you're awake, right? Try not to go long periods of time without eating. So you stay within your day's energy balance much more effectively. You don't want to let your blood sugar rise or fall too much. Our blood sugar kind of goes on about a 3-hour cycle of like rising and falling. And so we kind of want to eat about every 3 hours to kind of maintain our within energy balance per day. And then take a nice break from eating. 12 hours is great. Overnight when you're sleeping.
Kate, that helps so much. I think you're going to save a lot of us money on alkaline water and things that we've been buying. And I know that one of the big things that you do on Cook for Your Life is also share recipes. So I was hoping you could help us bring it all together and show us a couple of your favorite recipes with some tips and ideas so we can see the kinds of things we can find on Cook for Your Life.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the first one that we're going to talk about. So one of the, we talked about sugar, right? And so we want to get our sugar from whole foods as much as possible and reduce our reliance on added sugars. And one of the biggest culprits of added sugar that we don't always realize is in our salad dressings. And we also, a lot of us, not everyone, a lot of us also don't realize how easy it is to make a salad dressing. It is one of the simplest ways to shift your patterns, right? You can stop by buying like shelf stable or prepared salad dressings and just switch and make your own basic mustard vinaigrette. And so it takes like 5 minutes. It's fabulous. And it's, you start to get to learn the recipe and then you can make adjustments here and there as tweaks as you like it. Yeah. And the next one that we're going to talk about is our kale and quinoa tabbouleh, which actually utilizes the basic vinaigrette dressing. So it's a lovely kind of pairing. You can make your dressing and then make this lovely kale and quinoa tabbouleh salad, which is a high fiber salad. It's got lots of color. I will give a shout out to quinoa as being one of the few plant-based complete protein sources. So for those looking to reduce their reliance on animal foods and still wanting to make sure they're getting enough protein, quinoa is a lovely resource, a lovely kind of substitute for animal foods. And I will give another shout out to soy foods. That's also another complete plant-based protein. So we never want to take people's soy away from them if that's what they're using to get a lot of their protein needs met throughout the day. And then just because we're approaching summertime, we haven't talked about alcohol, but alcohol is a risk factor for developing many, many cancers. And so we provided a mock sangria that's just a nice summery poppy beverage so that you can still, have fun and enjoy the company and the fizzy fun drink without consuming the alcohol.
Oh, that looks so amazing and so refreshing.
Yeah, they're yummy.
Kate, before this session, our community just sent in a couple of just quick questions that I would love to wrap up and ask you.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for us when we're out eating in restaurants on how we should order?
Yeah. Order whatever you want and enjoy your experience at the restaurant. Honestly, that's really, when we talk about a cancer protective diet, we're reducing risk. And so most of the time, right, hopefully people are consuming a high fiber diet that's rich in fruits and vegetables and whole grains and legumes. And then when they go out to eat, they can eat whatever they want, and it won't impact their risk in any particular direction. And so I just, you want to give people a realistic view of life, right? And if you're going out to a restaurant, you're typically celebrating something, or you're enjoying dinner with your family or friends, and it's a time to celebrate and just, not carry that guilt around.
I love that balanced advice that you're giving all of us. And just one last question. If there was one nutrient that you think everyone should get more of, what would it be?
Yeah, I love this question. Omega-3 fatty acids. I feel like most people in America don't eat a consistent source of omega-3 fatty acids. So really quickly, because I know we're short on time, so I want to be mindful, but I'll rattle them off really quickly. So animal sources of omega-3 fats are salmon, tuna, mackerel, sardines. And then in the plant kingdom, the big star is going to be walnuts, and then flaxseed, ground flaxseed, because if you eat them whole, it just is fiber and they show up in your poop. And so you want to grind them so you have access to the omega-3 fats and the lignans that support reducing risk for breast cancer. Chia seeds are also a good source of omega-3 fats. But those, and they just have to show up in your diet like 3 to 4 days a week.
You just made me feel so much better about the ground flaxseed in my morning smoothies. So
Yay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kate, you have so much to share with everyone, and I'm sure that our audience would love to know where they can find and follow you. Before you go, can you remind us of the various places to find and follow Cook for Your Life and how to access the services that you provide?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram at Cook for Your Life. We are also on Facebook at Cook for Your Life. And then you can go to our website at cookforyourlife.org.
Kate, thank you so much to you and Cook for Your Life. I know that this session has been so informative for myself and for everyone who is watching us live, as well as anyone who may be watching us on replay. If you have more questions, or if you're looking for other fantastic recipes like the ones that you saw today, we definitely encourage you to visit cookforyourlife.org. I know I've learned so much, and everyone else joining us has too. On behalf of the entire Look Good, Feel Better family, Kate, we're so grateful to you for sharing your time and all of your insights with us. Thank you to everyone who joined us today live, or if you're watching this on replay. And don't forget, each time you donate $20 to Look Good, Feel Better, your name will be entered into a drawing for an exclusive Look Good, Feel Better beauty and skincare bag full of fantastic premium products. Just click the donate button below or text Feel Good to 44321. Don't forget to include your email address, because that's how the winners are going to be notified. Finally, we want to give a big shout out to our lineup of Look Good, Feel Better month sponsors. This includes Carmen D Beauty, Clinique, Emmy, Halo 42, author Jamie Gold, Philip Kingsley, Cook for Your Life, Aveeno Restorative Skin Therapy, and Beauty by Rudy. We want to thank everyone for joining us today. We hope to see you at a future Feel Better session soon. We hope everyone has a great day. Bye for now.
Bye.